Lightweight electric dirt bikes have come a long way over the past couple years, and one of the most important upgrades that you can make is suspension. Now there's a lot of misinformation on the market when it comes to suspension for your lightweight e-moto, so hopefully if you're looking to upgrade, this video will provide some good clarification for you. Now before I get into each individual suspension option that I'm going to be talking about today, there's a lot of different bikes on the market to sort through. So if you've got a bike with the same suspension dimensions as a Talaria XXX, a Talaria MX3 or MX4, an E-Ride Pro SS, a Surron Light Bee X, a Ventus One, then this video is relevant to you. If you've been following the e-moto community for a while, you've likely seen a lot of different trends that have hit the market, and there are some trends that I highly advise you do not follow. And the first one that I want to talk about is downhill mountain bike forks. So to talk about why the downhill mountain bike fork became a trend, I've got to take you through the very beginning of these bikes becoming a thing, and that starts with the Surron Light Bee X. So to the early adopters of the Surron Light Bee, there were not a lot of suspension upgrade options out there. And so when they went and they damaged their fork, they were looking for a solution, and the only solution that fit is a downhill mountain bike fork. Reason being, these bikes have a lot of the same components. They've got downhill mountain bike 4-piston brakes. They've got 200 millimeters of travel. They've got the same triple clamps. They've even got the same hubs in the front wheel that fit onto a downhill mountain bike fork. So you could bolt up a Fox 40 or a Marzocchi Bomber or a RFloXA downhill fork. There were these options that already existed because downhill mountain biking has been so popular for so long. And that was kind of the way that the trend came about, and people ended up really liking the look of it as well. However, because suspension has come such a long way, I highly recommend you do not go with one of those forks. For example, the Fox 40 is a lightweight 4-pound aluminum fork. You expect that fork to hold up to an additional 100 pounds that you provide from riding an e-moto? It's not going to happen. It's really flexy, it's going to bend. I've watched people snap these things. I've even ridden one back when I was on an early version of a Surron that I needed a suspension upgrade for, and it was pretty scary how flexy that was looking back on it and how easy it was for me to actually bend a fork. So I highly advise you not to go with that. However, there is one downhill mountain bike fork option on the market that I would still say is decently okay to put on a bike, and that is the Manitou Dorado. This company actually stands behind their fork and will warranty it if there's any issue on your bike. So where other companies have advised us do not put their product onto a lightweight e-moto, Manitou is a little bit different. They actually allow you to put this fork on their bike and they stand behind their product. So that is the one downhill mountain bike option if you're looking for a lightweight fork that will work on this bike. It is 8 pounds versus the 4 pounds of the Fox 40, but it's very worth it. It looks great on a bike. So if you're looking for a really lightweight fork, this is gonna be the only real option that I would suggest going with in terms of downhill mountain bike forks. After the downhill mountain bike era came another trend, and that was putting KTM 85 forks on the front end of your bike. Now we've got a whole video series on us trying to follow this trend and test it, and ultimately we came to the conclusion that this fork overpowers a lightweight e-moto. It is a pain in the butt to try to get it fit up to a bike. It requires a custom 85 front wheel. You've got a completely different brake setup front and rear, where you go from an actual moto brake on one of these to a Surron brake on the rear. So the feeling of that's horrible. The whole front end feels like it's just way overweight. And I think the biggest factor of this fork is 4 inches longer. It is 34 inches long, whereas a typical Surron fork is 30. So that geometry change is massive. The only bike that can somewhat accommodate it is the Talaria, because that bike is stink bug in nature. However, even then, it's too much of a geometry change to make these bikes really that comfortable to ride. So in our previous videos where we developed the bike that we call Gold Member, we had to make the back end of the bike as tall as we possibly could to try to accommodate for that length. The bike is okay as it sits, but this is just not the best option in the world and not a trend I would recommend following. All right, now that we got some bad trends out of the way, it's time to get into the suspension that is actually worth putting on your bike. And I'm gonna kick things off with the FastAce ALX13RC. Now this fork has been the most popular fork in the e-moto community, and that's because it is a great budget option that is extremely strong and capable on your bike. Now the FastAce comes in quite a few different variations, however the most obvious one is the gold versus the black fork. The gold fork is slightly more expensive. It is also a limited batch run, so typically these forks are a little bit harder to come by. However, it's been extremely popular and we've been trying to get them as much as we can. So if you want one, be sure to hit the notify when available button. The moment these go into stock, that is going to be your first responder to knowing that it's there, and we can try to get you on one of these forks. Beyond the difference in color, the fork will come with a few different variations of springs. You can get it in a 37 pound, a 50 pound, and a 60 pound spring, all dependent on your riding style. We also custom tune this fork, which is one of the major reasons this has been so successful, is because it is actually a serviceable fork. It can be plush, aggressive. We also provide a heavy tune for those people that like to hit jumps or go to the motocross track. This fork is capable of doing all of that, and a tune is not that much more expensive in comparison. Still keeps this fork at a really nice budget. So a couple of different specs to go over on this fork. It is 200 millimeters of travel. It is 12 pounds in weight. It has high speed and low speed compression and a rebound adjustment. And it's a dual coil fork. So it's a very traditional style fork, which makes it great for tuning. Our custom tune option, we go through and put different seals on it. We do more high quality oil. We do a better damper tune, as well as different spring rates. If you are going for the heavy tune, we also do a 65 pound spring, which is not something that is offered from FastAce from the factory. Now the very inner diameter of the legs, which is the diameter that you want to be the most concerned about when it comes to tire fitment, is 90 millimeters. That's very important. It is one of the thinner ones on the market. However, it fits most tire sizes very well. The only time that you might notice some restrictions is when it comes to supermoto tires. However, Warp 9 has created a triple clamp that widens and lowers this. We've got a whole video on that triple clamp and how to get it installed, but it's a great option if you're trying to utilize this fork for a wider supermoto setup or even an 1821 wheel setup to fit in that bigger tire without it rubbing your fender. Installation of the FastAce is also very straightforward and very simple. All that you really need is a fit kit to get it installed on your bike. If you are an E-Ride Pro owner, those bikes come with 220 millimeter front rotors, so you will need an adapter for that front rotor. Now, if you're wanting to upgrade to a full 21-inch front wheel, but you don't want to spend the money on a complete triple clamp setup, you can do our just drop crown option for the FastAce fork. This is a great way to get that additional height needed for that 21-inch wheel. And if you're on a Talaria, which is a very stink bugged bike in nature, and you've got a FastAce fork on that bike, you definitely want one of these, even if you're on a 1916 setup. The next fork on the list is KKE's High Performance fork. Now you might know this brand from coming OEM on the Surron Light Bee. However, this fork is completely different from that one. This fork is a lot more similar to the FastAce, however, it's got some key features that make it a great fork overall. Getting into those features, this fork comes with SKF seals. That is a big deal. It is what we also use when we are custom tuning forks. Those are the best seals on the market. This fork also has 210 millimeters of travel, and the axle to crown is an inch longer than the FastAce. So where the FastAce needs that drop crown to fit a 21-inch wheel, this fork does not. This fork also comes in at a price point of $850, so it's still a great budget option. And it's good for riders that are anywhere from 175 to 220 pounds, mainly if you're trail riding. Whether that's mildly or aggressive, this is a great fork for that weight range. This fork also comes in at 12 pounds on the dot. The actual spring weight in it is 23 pounds in each leg, which means 46 pounds overall. This fork also has beautiful CNC triple clamps as well as lower dropouts. And overall, for the cost of this fork, I'm actually extremely impressed by what they've accomplished. Hopping over to the premium side of things, we've got none other than the EXT Ferro. Now this is a fork that I've spent a lot of time on personally, and I can definitely say it has the highest performance out of any fork on the market. This fork has got some incredible features. It comes in at 11 pounds, but it is extremely strong. I think some of the coolest features about this are it's got high speed and low speed compression, rebound, and then the biggest thing is it's an air fork. But not only is it an air fork, it's got two positive air chambers, one of which is for the initial 70% of your travel. The other one is to ramp up towards the bottom. So you can adjust and tune this fork to feel however you want it to feel while you're out there riding. All that you need is an air pump. Like I said, this fork is premium. It comes with two different options. You can do a flat crown like the one on this fork, or you can do a drop crown. The flat crown version is $2,000. The drop crown version is $2,100. But this fork is very worth the amount of money that you pay for it. If you want to take it one step further, EXT has released a black edition. This is a very limited run edition of this fork, but the cool thing is it's completely blackout and it's got a coating on the back stanchion called DLC. EXT has done the blackout edition in a combo with their Arma MX shock, which is an incredible combo. It's what I run on all my race bikes. These guys truly nailed this fork as being the premium in the market. Another fork on the list is the Formula Tech fork. This fork is beginning to get adapted onto e-motos pretty recently. I think it deserves its own video of us actually going out and testing it and making sure that the fitment works and showing you guys how to ultimately install this fork. Because when you purchase it, it only comes as two legs. So you have to have the right triple clamp, you have to have the right axle, you have to have the right front brake for it. This one's a little bit more complicated and something that deserves its own video, so stay tuned for us to actually test the Formula Tech suspension. Something that you might hear me say quite often is competition creates competition. That's what I love about this market, is it's moving so fast. And speaking of fast, FastAce produced a rebuttal to KKE's fork. So when KKE came out with their high performance fork, FastAce said, okay, let's go ahead and update our current fork. And they came out with the FastAce Gravitee, which you see spec'd stock on the Ventus One. Now this is an even stronger version of their previous FastAce. It is a little bit more expensive. It comes in at $899, but still a great budget fork. They also lengthened the axle to crown, creating better fitment for a 21-inch wheel. They also moved the dropout positioning of the axle forward, which creates more stability from the fork itself. They've got a couple of other improvements on the fork as well, including better seals and a nicer coating on the stanchion. This fork is also available in different spring rates. They've got a progressive 38-pound to 60-pound spring rate, which is a really cool concept because that means it's going to be subtle on top and then ramp up quickly towards the end of the stroke. Or you can do the traditional 50-pound or 60-pound spring rates as well. But ultimately, this was their update to their previous FastAce, and it comes in at great competition to that KKE high performance fork. Remember what I just said about competition creates competition? Well, there's another new fork on the market. I don't even know how to pronounce the name of this brand, so I'm just gonna spell it out. It's the RFloXA, RFloXA. Their motto is where recoil meets luxury. And this, to me, looks a lot like a FastAce fork, just with some pretty nice updates to it. It's got high speed, low speed compression, it's got rebound, it's got a preload adjustment. Looks like separate fork function in this fork. It's got a really nice triple clamp with 3 different pinch points on the lower and 2 different pinch points on the upper. But this is another fork that comes in at a price point of $899 that we are getting ready to test. So I'm interested to see how this one stacks up against the other forks on the market. Now I know this might seem like there's a ton of options out there and it can be a little bit overwhelming. However, we've got a lot of content of us riding a lot of the forks in this video. So please go check that out before you make a decision on what one you want to buy. And yes, there are still a couple of options that we need to test, like the Formula Tech fork and that RFloXA fork. We will be testing those very soon to provide some good feedback for you. But these forks that I've shown in this video are the ones that I think are your best upgrade option, especially when it comes from a budget all the way up to a premium fork. It's hard to go wrong with any one of these. You just want to pick the one that best suits your riding needs. So hopefully this video helped. If you guys have any questions about any of the forks below, please comment that question below and let us know what you'd like to see when it comes to testing them in the future.